Hi, welcome back to my channel, or if you're here for the first time, welcome. I'm Stacey. I'm a therapist in private practice in the Jackson, Mississippi area, and this is Ask a Therapist. This question comes from Andy. Andy asks, do some counselors create additional problems in the client's mind in order to keep them in therapy? Wow, that is horrible. I am so I'm a little taken aback that that's a question that somebody would ask. Hopefully not. Are there people in every profession who maybe tend to be a little more sociopathic or narcissistic, self-serving? Probably so. I have heard some pretty awful stories of how some unethical individuals have taken advantage of people, but I think it's important to remember that that's a very, very small percentage of a thriving field full of people who are ready and willing to help you. Now, I'm going to give you an example of something that somebody who is suspicious of therapists or therapy, or maybe experiencing some paranoia, might perceive as creating more problems, but is just that other things come up in therapy. I had somebody come in who was processing a breakup of a long-term relationship, and as we talked, after a couple sessions, this person began to realize that there were some deeper issues that had to do with their childhood. Basically, they were accepting a lot of behavior that was not appropriate from partners because they felt that love was conditional. So I have to do or say the right things in order to be loved, to receive your love. And that's something that comes from our childhoods, from our families of origin. So, there is a joke that if you go to see a therapist, they're going to blame everything on your parents. And that's definitely not the case. But in this particular person's treatment, after I think 2 or 3 sessions, they said, I think I'm over this breakup. Do I need to keep coming? And I said, that's up to you. We've had some other stuff come up as we've talked. If you want to process more about these feelings like love is conditional and you have to earn it, then yeah, keep coming and we will work on that. But if you feel like you're done and you don't want to delve into that other stuff, then you don't need to come back. See, the way that modern therapy works is that most people use their insurance to pay for therapy, and insurance is not going to pay for you to go to therapy once a week for the rest of your life. So therapists and counselors know going into it that there is an end in sight. Plus, most people don't want to come to therapy once a week for the rest of their lives. So I would think that probably most people who you're going to see for mental health treatment are not looking to create problems for you. And depending on the circumstances and the reasons for these thoughts or feelings, it could be that somebody is, I don't know how to put it. If there are alarm bells going off and you feel like something is wrong and you're an adult who's never had problems with paranoia or being suspicious of those around you, then that could be indicative that there is something going on with this particular professional. If you are somebody who has a history of paranoid thoughts, behaviors, suspicion, not trusting people, then it's probably not as much to do with the professional than it is to do with the fact that you are somebody that has a hard time trusting and have a history of paranoid thoughts. So yeah, without more information about why somebody is thinking this, And as a general thing, most people don't get involved in this field because we want to make money. The helping field is not the field where you're going to be making, a huge amount of money unless, you're somebody that writes a book and goes out on a book tour and does speaking engagement. There's plenty of things that you can side hustle to have a good income into the six figures, but just your average therapist in an office that sees clients is not making a ton of money and is not in it for the money. So I hope that answers your question, and I would say that the vast majority, maybe like 0.001% of people want to create more problems for you, but I do feel like there would be some red flags that you would notice, some alarm bells going off, that type of thing. Crystal wants to know what my total worth is. And I assume that has to do with money. So I'm going to pass on that question, but say that private practice therapists do not make as much as you think that they do. At this point in my career, when I was working full-time, and also now as I'm building up clientele in a private practice, I can tell you I have yet to make as much in 1 year as a salary than I have in student loan debt. So... Oh, this is a good one. Juliet asks, how do therapists teach a client who is not in touch with his or her feelings, who can't really recognize them, to find a safe mental space? Well, first of all, you have to learn what feelings are and how to identify them. I have a great poster that I found on a social media ad, but I've saved it because I love it. It's one of the best feeling charts I have ever seen. So I'm going to pop it up here, and what you do is when you have a sensation that you are feeling something, because most people are not just numb. If you're so numb that you're not feeling anything, then you're probably very seriously depressed, so we're going to address that. But if you have feelings, which the vast majority of people do, you have to learn how to identify what it is. So with kids, we have, feelings charts where it'll have facial expressions, because most of the communication, remember, for humans is nonverbal. So things like a smiling face, an angry face, so that children can help, identify their emotions in that way. But it's really, first of all, just about paying attention to when you have a feeling and then learning to identify what those feelings are. We have I believe it's 5 base emotions that we are born with the ability to feel. And that's happiness or joy, anger, sadness, disgust, and fear. So, you don't have to teach a child how to be afraid. You don't have to teach a child that mashed peas are disgusting. If you've ever fed a baby something that they don't like, you put it in their mouth and they're like, maybe they won't swallow it, it runs down their face. So disgust is something that we are just born knowing. Anger, happiness, you don't have to teach a baby to laugh. So these are things that everybody has the ability to feel from birth. And it's all about identifying what that feeling is. And there's all different types of, it's not just anger. Sometimes there's, irritability, or anxiety may present as anger. So it's about drilling down to what are those emotions. So getting in touch with those feelings is first about identifying them. And as I said before, people oftentimes are not so numb that they don't feel things. Now, we might disassociate or shut down because of trauma or really extreme experiences. And when you have complex trauma or you disassociate, then you do need specialized counseling and therapy to be able to work through those things. But the therapy session is a safe space. So creating a safe mental space is really about being in a place where you feel safe, where you know that you are safe. And when you're talking about things like EMDR or something that we do to process complex trauma, you know that physically you are safe. You know, I am in my therapist's office in a building that is full of people who are therapists and clients. You know, nobody is going to get me. There is nothing physically threatening here. So when those feelings do come up, you do know intellectually, rationally, that you are safe. But I think most of the time getting in touch with feelings is really about identifying them. Now, sometimes we might not have trouble being in touch with our feelings in general, but we might have trouble with our feelings in a particular situation. And in that case, it's about exploring the situation, talking about it, and, you know, making sure that the client has enough time to compose themselves and say what they need to say in a session. Obviously, you're going to need to have a heads up that, you know, the session is ending in 10 minutes. So then we can start to wrap things up. You can compose yourself and you can feel safe. You know, I'm not gonna end a session when somebody is feeling very vulnerable, emotional, anything like that. But I'm also somebody that tends to run pretty on time with my sessions, and the way that I do that is by giving people a heads up, like, hey, you know, we've got 10 minutes left in this session. Let's move forward from maybe processing this grief and talking about these details and go into what are we gonna do this week to do some stuff on your own, or what are you looking forward to this week? What is something good that's happening? And to move away for those really intense feelings before the session is over. But you also have to feel comfortable with the therapist, and you have to feel like the therapist's office is a safe space to begin with, because a safe space physically is a safe space mentally. Well, I hope that the answers to these questions have been helpful. If you have a question that you would like to ask me, you can send me an email, AskStacey@StaceyAldridgeLCSW.com. I bring you one of these episodes every week on Fridays. If you enjoyed the video, I hope that you will consider subscribing and hitting the bell so you get a notification every time I post. I will have some other videos on different topics coming here and there, but nothing as regular as the Ask a Therapist episodes at this time. Also, give the video a thumbs up, because liking and commenting definitely helps me so that I can get more exposure and other people might see this video and I'll have a chance to help them as well. So thank you so much for watching, and remember, be kind to yourself today and be kind to others too. I'll see you next time.